Hi, glad to see you on my channel. Support the channel with a like, subscribe and comment. It's not hard for you, but it motivates me to create new videos. Enjoy watching. This true story took place in early December 2024 in a small town in the state of Utah. This story is related to Daniel. We have been friends for about 15 years now. We met in college and have been inseparable ever since. His wife, Emily, I've known for even longer. She was in the same class as my sister in high school. So when Daniel and Emily started dating, I was genuinely happy for them. Emily's mother, Margaret, retired a few years ago and moved to the countryside. She bought a small house with a plot of land, a vegetable garden, and flowers. Margaret lives there quietly and often invites her children to visit, but as usual, they are either busy or just don't have time. Her home, with its charming decor and welcoming atmosphere, always seemed like the perfect retreat from the hustle and bustle of the city. One day Daniel called me. "Listen, help me out," he said. "I need to renovate the kitchen, re-wallpaper, re-glue a shelf, and a few other things. It'll take forever on your own, but together we'll get it done faster." I agreed. Why not help a good friend? Besides, I hadn't seen Margaret's house yet, and I was curious about the house Daniel often talked about. The next morning I loaded the tools and materials into the car, and we drove to Margaret's house. Her country house turned out to be a cozy 2-story home with a well-kept garden and flowers everywhere. Rows of roses and daisies adorned the path to the door, and a swing hung from an old oak tree in the yard. Margaret met us at the door. She was a stately woman of about 55, but she looked younger. She was wearing a bright summer dress and her hair was beautifully styled and exuded a natural elegance. "Oh, I remember you," she said. "You used to visit your sister at school." She was right. At the time, I had only seen her as the mother of my sister's classmate, but now she seemed like a very intriguing woman. Her voice was warm, melodious, and I immediately felt at ease. We set to work. I took care of the wallpaper and Daniel took care of the shelves. Margaret fed us tea and homemade cakes. She seemed to know exactly when we needed a break, and she always showed up with a tray of treats just as fatigue began to set in. By late afternoon, most of the work was done, with only a few small things left to do. Margaret suggested a bath, saying it was the best way to relax after a hard day's work. The sauna was impressive, new, with a steam room and a cozy restroom. Margaret proudly walked us through it, explaining that she had overseen the design herself. Afterward, she treated us to dinner. She set the table with pickles, homemade pies, and even brought her own blackcurrant liqueur. The liqueur had a deep, rich flavor that complemented the food perfectly. We laughed and talked, telling stories from our youth. Margaret had an easy, youthful laugh that was infectious and filled the room with a sense of warmth and camaraderie. Out of the blue, Daniel announced, "I'm going fishing. Evening is the best time to do it." I knew better. He wasn't fishing. He had a local friend in mind. Thus, Margaret and I were left alone. She poured more liquor and sat down beside me. Her hair smelled delicious, and the soft tickle of it against my cheek made me dizzy. Whether from the liquor or from her proximity, I could not tell. Before I knew it, we were in a whirlwind of emotions. I remember the softness of his hands, the silkiness of her hair, and how the world seemed to stop. We forgot about everything, even the fact that Daniel could come back at any moment. The hours flew by, as if we were in a dream that we both knew couldn't last, but didn't want to end. Later, as we lay on the couch watching a comedy, she hummed some tune. Through the open window, the scent of flowers wafted into the room and time seemed to stand still. The light rustling of leaves outside the window and the distant chirping of crickets gave the moment a surreal character. But the next day we finished the renovations and left. I never returned to that country house again. 3 years have passed since that summer. Daniel and Emily now have a son, and they seem happy. Still, I sometimes think back to that evening, the aroma of blackcurrant liqueur, the warmth of Margaret's laughter. Some memories, I suppose, are better left as fleeting flashes, beautiful, but left in the past. And yet, every now and then I catch a faint whiff of blackcurrant or hear a laugh that reminds me of her. And it is as if I am back in that house, just for a moment, reliving a memory too fragile to hold, but too vivid to forget. Translated with Deeple.com, free version.